Let's be real for a second. The world of wine can feel, well, super overwhelming, right? You walk into a shop, you see walls of bottles, you hear all these fancy words, and it's easy to feel like you need some kind of secret password just to pick one. But what if I told you most of that is just noise? We're going to cut through all of it and get right to the good stuff, finding a wine you actually love to drink. And this quote, this is basically our motto here. We are not trying to turn you into a wine snob overnight. The goal is to get you feeling comfortable, feeling confident, and honestly, just ready to explore. So forget all the pretense. This is about making wine fun, making it an easygoing part of a great meal or a good conversation. All right, first things first, let's talk about the language. There's this huge myth that you need to learn a whole new vocabulary just to enjoy wine. But the truth? You already know the only words you'll ever need. Sure, you'll hear experts throw around words like terroir or minerality, and that's totally fine for them. But for you, the words that really matter are way simpler. Think about it. I might taste blackberry, you might taste strawberry, but if we both think it's delicious, that's all that counts. The most powerful words in wine are, "This is my favorite." That's it. Your own taste is the only expert you need to listen to. Okay, next myth we're gonna bust. This idea that winemaking is some kind of mysterious, complicated art. When you actually break it down, it's a pretty straightforward process to get from a grape on a vine to the wine in your glass. At its heart, winemaking is really just farming. You grow some grapes, you pick them, and then you crush them to get the juice out. Then comes the magic part, yeast. The yeast eats up all the sugar in the juice and turns it into alcohol. That's fermentation. After that, the wine just hangs out for a bit to develop its flavor, and then, bam, it goes into a bottle. Simple as that. So you might be wondering, what's the big difference between red and white wine? Is it a different kind of magic? Nope. It's all about the grape skins. For red wines, the juice hangs out and ferments with the skins, seeds, and all that stuff. That's where red wine gets its color, its flavor, and that mouth-drying feeling called tannin. For white wines, they get those skins out of there right away. That one little change gives you two totally different drinks. All right, let's get into tasting. This is where people can get really hung up, thinking they need a super-powered sense of taste or something. But tasting wine isn't a test. You can't fail. It's just exploring. The whole thing is super simple. First, just look at it, see the color. Then give it a swirl and take a sniff. Don't worry about getting it right. Just notice what you smell. Next, take a little sip. And finally, after you swallow, pay attention to how long that taste sticks around. That's what they call the finish. That's the entire process. See, smell, sip, savor. You can do that. So let's just hammer this point home. The goal here is not to correctly guess that you're smelling cigar box and hints of dried cherry. No way. The goal is to figure out what you like. It's about getting past the idea that wine is gross and realizing, oh, I just haven't found the one I enjoy yet. Just be curious and you'll find it. Now, even when you find a wine you love, the whole act of serving it can feel a bit stuffy, can it? But just like everything else we've talked about, we can break it down into something that's not about being fancy, it's just about feeling confident. Before we jump into the steps, I want to ask you a question. Think about every restaurant you've ever been to, from a casual pizza joint to a super fancy place. What is the number one most common mistake that's made when serving wine? A dirty glass. That's it. Seriously. You could have the most expensive bottle of wine in the world, but if the glass has lipstick on it or is covered in smudges, the whole experience is ruined. So let's call this Rule 0. Always, always start with a sparkling, clean glass. Once that glass is perfect, the rest is a breeze. You just show the bottle to make sure it's the right one, open it up, pour a little bit for the person who ordered it so they can give it a thumbs up, then you serve everyone else, and finally, top off the host. Put the bottle back on the table with the label facing out so people can see what they're enjoying. See, it's not a ceremony, it's just good hospitality. Okay, we have covered the basics, we've covered tasting, we've covered serving. Now for the best part, putting it all together to find a bottle you love and pairing it with great food. And you do not need a fancy meal for this. Wine is for everything. If you're having pepperoni pizza, a big, spicy Zinfandel is going to be its best friend. Got some smoky BBQ ribs? A fruity Shiraz will make those flavors pop. The general idea is super easy. Match the vibe of the food. Big, bold flavors go great with big, bold wines. It's that simple. So let's do a quick recap. What have we learned? Number 1, your taste is the only thing that matters. 2, making wine isn't some dark art. It's basically farming. 3, tasting is about exploring, not being an expert. 4, a clean glass is everything. And finally, wine is just there to make food, fun, and connecting with people even better. You've got all the tools you need now. You really don't have to be an expert, and you definitely don't need to spend a lot of money. You just have to be a little curious and willing to try something new. So I guess that just leaves one question. What will your first favorite bottle be?